What's up, Trevor?
Hey, fellas. How we doing? Appreciate you having me.
Of course.
So, you know what? Let's start with the Tampa side of it. Surprised that Baker throws 4 touchdowns in that opener and the offense looks so good?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if surprise is the right word. This is kind of the ceiling of what we could have expected from Baker Mayfield. But, it's not like it was out of the realm of possibility. I think that they ended the year last year really strong. Baker came into this offseason really confident, and the whole team did. I think right before week 1 got kicked off, I don't remember if it was in an article or a podcast or something, but Baker basically said, like, I've never been a part of a group that's this tight knit, that is this close. And I know a lot of players say that. I genuinely believe that down in Tampa Bay, because Jason Light's done a really good job of not just getting good players, but the right players into that organization. As somebody from Tampa, I've sort of seen him build that firsthand, even when I was down there as a beat reporter. So, to bring in Baker Mayfield and for him to have success, I mean, he's a fiery, passionate guy. People rally around him. People want to root for Baker Mayfield. And when things are going good, people have said this before, whether it was at Oklahoma or with the Cleveland Browns or whatever, when things are going good with Baker Mayfield, they're going great. And the team rallies around him and everybody wants to play really well. That's what we saw this past week. We saw a team that was ready, that was motivated, that's out there having fun. They're playing confident. They're playing loose. And they got some good players to go along with that mindset. So, unfortunately for Washington, it was just bad timing, right? I mean, it's a new coach. It's an entirely new roster. It's a new rookie quarterback. There was so much new going up against a group that, yeah, they had some changes this offseason, but a lot of the main players have primarily been together for a little bit now. So they've had the time to iron things out. So, no, not really shocked that the Mayfield 4-touchdown performance happened, although, like I said, this is kind of the ceiling of what they could have achieved.
So, Trevor, what were your takeaways watching that rookie quarterback for Washington, the number 2 overall pick, Jayden Daniels, 17 of 24 through the air, but really did the damage with his legs, 16 carries, almost 90 yards, found the end zone twice. I mean, they're going to lean heavily on that rushing as they try to figure out who the number 2 wideout is here in Washington behind Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. And, when you look at Todd Bowles' game plan, I'm sure it was like, hey, let's try to limit the rushing. And, well, that didn't really work. And I think that's just a testament to how good of a player that Jayden Daniels is. There were a couple of times when he took off in that game. He tucked it to run. And the speed in which he was moving, I was like, whoa, okay, you got to hold your breath. Like, this dude could be a 20, 25-yard rush in the blink of an eye. And I think if you're a Washington fan, that's what you love to see the most. Obviously, of course, you've seen quarterbacks in the past, these mobile quarterbacks, they get hurt. You got to think about that as well. It was a talking point with Jayden, how he's got to make sure that he protects himself as much as possible. But the dual threat ability that he has is extremely impactful. And, I wondered what that was going to look like at NFL speeds, versus NFL defenses. It still looked very dominant to me. So that's going to be a major part of his game. Now, on the flip side, the reason why we saw so many attempts from Daniels is because he was primarily a one read and then tuck it and run kind of a quarterback against Tampa Bay. And that's not to be unexpected, right? As a rookie quarterback who has this kind of ability, who, let's face it, LSU's offense was very much point and shoot. Which one of my all-star wide receivers was going to win this round? Was it going to be Lacey? Was it going to be Brian Thomas Jr.? Was it going to be Malik Neighbors? Probably multiple, to be honest with you. And so it was always going to be an adjustment for him to become a progression, read through the pocket type of a quarterback. But I love the rushing ability that we already saw from him. I hope that allows him to improve as a passer on the run, because as much as he is mobile, he didn't exactly throw the ball a lot when he was out of the pocket last year. And I think that it was a good start for Jayden Daniels. And I do think that, albeit in a loss, you do have to be encouraged with some things that you saw from him.
So we were looking at some of the PFF grades on the quarterbacks, and we were wondering why Josh Allen wasn't number 1 this week. He's kind of down on your list. And you have Caleb and Jayden right next to each other in the grades. Tell us about the rookie quarterbacks, what you saw from all 3.
Well, as a person who grades every single player every week, let me tell no, no. But look, I understand. The Josh Allen performance was awesome. There were a couple of throws that he left out there, which is why it wasn't a better grade. But I mean, you can't just deny what this dude was able to do for Buffalo. And I said before the season, if Buffalo is going to make the playoffs this year with the roster that they currently have constructed, Josh Allen's probably winning MVP because of what he's going to have to do. And I think he got on the right foot with a big comeback win for him. When it comes to those rookie quarterbacks, I think that they were all sort of graded similarly. I think that Nick's got the lowest grade of the bunch, or actually now I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's pretty close to Jayden. So they're all kind of right there with their overall grades. And, it's funny. I talked about the encouraging moments for Jayden in his performance. I also think that both of the performances from Caleb Williams and Bo Nix were sort of exactly what you wanted, right? Nix kind of tried to push the ball a little bit further, threw a couple of turnover-worthy plays. Obviously, you don't want him to do that, but he was going to have to learn that at the NFL level. It was not going to be as easy as it was at Oregon. And so for him to fail, that could be an incredible teacher for him. And the Broncos didn't draft him at 12 overall because they thought that he was this perfect prospect. They drafted him because they knew where he had to get better. They just trust his coachability and his ability to improve and not make the same mistakes twice or three times or whatever, as limited as possible when he's repeating those mistakes. So what we saw from him, I don't think it was that discouraging. In fact, he had a really nice rushing touchdown from him as he continued to fight towards the end of the game. So I like that. And then on the flip side for Caleb, a lot of inconsistencies with Caleb. I think that there were plenty of times when he sort of felt like he was back at USC, where I remember watching a couple of throws in that game where I go, that's a throw that he makes off platform, feet are all over the place, your throwing motion was all over the place, because he said to himself, okay, I'm in Lincoln Riley's offense. I'm going to throw the ball 50, 55 times a game. And if we don't score a touchdown here, we're probably going to lose the game. And you still saw those tendencies from Caleb Williams. And that's why you saw a lot of the misses and why he didn't get 100 yards passing. But I think it was the best case scenario for him because he struggled, and yet his team won the football game. They won the football game because of their defense. Cannot tell you the last time that USC was able to do that during the 2 years of the Caleb Williams era. And so I think, you hope that Caleb was able to go back to his locker after the game, sit down, take a deep breath and go, all right, I played like crap and we won. Like, this is different now. Like, I get to kind of change my mindset here. So it was very interesting. Even though all three quarterbacks struggled, I think it was sort of the start that you would want realistically for these guys.
Yeah, just specifically speaking to Jayden, I mean, because I'm desperate for this guy to be a star, not just be good, to be a star. I was very pleased. I was thrilled. I want to, though, kind of push back a little bit on him being like a one-read guy. Isn't part of that, this combo question, isn't part of that just the pressure that he was under? I mean, Bowles was bringing pressure from all over the place. The offensive line is clearly a weakness. We knew that going in. And he had to get the hell out of there. He didn't have time to sit there and make a bunch of reads, maybe. And then the combo part is, can you evaluate, what did you think of Kingsbury's concepts? He's getting criticized here for having no pre-snap motion, essentially, that's his deal, that he lines up Terry in the same spot, 99% of the time, whatever it is. What did you think of the offensive concepts? Because I got to tell you, I'm no X's and O's guy, but I wasn't overly impressed.
Yeah, so going back to the first part with pressure, he's pressured on 14 of his dropbacks. That was 11th most in the NFL. He only had 13 passing yards when he was pressured. And so, that's obviously the game plan, right? Todd Bowles has been around a long time. Hey, pressure the rookie quarterback, and until he proves us otherwise, we're going to keep doing that. So that was always going to be the game plan going in. And, he struggled a little bit, but again, it's sort of tough. It's sort of like building blocks. And I don't mean to say, hey, he was a one-read quarterback as in he's always going to be a one-read quarterback. It was sort of just kind of how things were always going to go with that game. And I think that, unfortunately for Washington, they didn't exactly have the star power either in the offensive line, just a takeover run game, or sort of like you said in the receiver room to say, let's counter what Bowles is doing, so they have to switch things up. Instead, it was, all right, Jayden's going to kind of make things happen with his legs, and we got to try to stay in this game in any way that we can. So, when I talk about him being a one-read guy, that was really just what I saw from week one in a good defensive game plan from Bowles. Not that I think that is going to be who he is overall. So it was sort of a tough test there. And then when you get to Cliff Kingsbury, I think that there were concepts with him when you look at his time with the Arizona Cardinals as well that just didn't evolve and just got kind of stale, even with some really good players on that team. And, I'm not going to say that he can't kind of get better here, but you do sort of have to kind of find a way to get a quarterback into a rhythm, whatever that is. And the best coach, I don't know what the answer. Obviously, if I knew what the answer is, I'd be the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders right now, and I wouldn't be on the phone with you guys. But what I would say is that the best coaches in the NFL are the ones that adjust to whatever their players need the most. And there were times in the past when I felt like that wasn't what Kingsbury was doing when he was with the Cardinals. It felt like more of, this is what I would like to do as an offense coordinator. This is what we're going to do. So I wonder if we sort of start to see things a little bit differently. We really, to be honest with you, need a couple of weeks. Like we need probably until at least week 4 or 5 to say, all right, let's notice, is he truly lining up Terry McLaurin in the same spot? Because I want this to be clear too. There were a couple of reps where McLaurin was open. Like, I know his stats aren't like through the roof or anything, but there were times when McLaurin was open. He just didn't get the ball or they weren't able to connect. So it's not like it was, man, he could not get Terry McLaurin the ball. That's not always just a Cliff Kingsbury thing. But when we get into, I would say, week 4 and week 5, that's when you really have the opportunity to look back at how play callers are doing on both sides of the ball and say, let's recognize the tendencies here. Are there things that are not working? Are they being stubborn in one way or the another? Is there still no motion, no pre-snap motion, limited play action? Are we throwing just, too many screens, things like that, like people have talked about with the air raid, all of that? I think you can evaluate that better when we get a little bit further down the road.
Joined by Trevor Sikkema, PFF NFL analyst at Tampa Bay. Trey, it was a really bad weekend for Joe Shane, the Giants GM. He had to watch Saquon Barkley dismantle the Packers on Friday night. And then on Sunday, he had to watch the Daniel Jones implosion, throwing 2 picks, Giants in a 28-6 bloodbath loss. Like, where do the Giants go from here? That's the Commanders' week 2 opponent. We've talked about it's an early kind of must-win for the Commanders if they want any semblance of a decent season. But talk about what you saw from the Giants and Daniel Jones week 1.
Yeah, not good, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this isn't really outside of what was expected. I think that Joe Shane did a nice job trying to upgrade that offensive line as best he could. I think he was sort of in a tough spot with Evan Neal, right? But you bring in a couple of guys on the interior. You bring in Jermaine Illuminor to be able to play right tackle for you. You obviously have Andrew Thomas at left. And so you kind of said to yourself, hey, we're doing the best that we can with sort of what's given with the players that are available this year to upgrade the offensive line. And now you're sort of running out of reasons for why Daniel Jones is not the bulk of the problem in New York. And I think a lot of people believed that that was the case probably a year or 2 ago. When he signed that contract, a lot of people were sort of on the fence about it. It's hard to totally blame the regime because it's like, man, the timing was bad with them coming in, and now you got to sign a guy that wasn't really your guy. But if you get rid of him, is there a better option out there? I think we're now fully realizing that there would have been a better option out there somewhere or another. So it's tough sledding for the New York Giants. There's no doubt about it. And I'll tell you this, it's not just on the offensive side of the ball. You go out and you trade for and you sign Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau gets 11 sacks last year. But if you look kind of deeper into these guys' performance, both of those players had pass rush win percentages around 5%. I mean, the best pass rushers in the NFL are above 20%. And if you want to be a good pass rusher in the NFL, you're somewhere between 15 and 20%. They were at 5, both of these guys. Dexter Lawrence, the whole talk of the offseason was finally they've got edge rushers to take the pressure off of Dexter Lawrence. He's the only guy that could rush the passer this week. That's it. Thibodeau still, I mean, it just the 11 and a half sacks was just such a, smoke and mirrors. It was an illusion. I went back and I watched all 11 and a half of those sacks last year. Half of them are cleanup sacks. Half of them he's like barely even blocked. And there's a couple that he was able to show a really nice move, but it's still so few and far between with him being able to win a one-on-one. And now we're seeing that with Brian Burns as well. And so now they've got a lot of money. They've got draft picks into this defensive line that is not producing. I like the potential of their secondary, but not with the front playing the way that it is. So it's not good in New York right now. And I kind of feel bad for Brian Daboll because, going back to us talking about Josh Allen a little bit earlier, Josh Allen credits Brian Daboll for how much he helped him become the NFL version of the quarterback that he is today. I think that Brian Daboll is a fantastic quarterback type of a coach. I think he's a really good offensive mind. And I just think that he's been dealt a hand that there's only so much that you could do with 7-2 offsuit when those are the cards that you get. There's just only so much you could do. You could try to bet it and bluff the right way, but that's how it feels with Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll right now. And that
Trevor,
feels
you're
like
speaking
the vibe
Cakes'
with
language.
Yep.
He's a big poker
guy.
nerd.
Love it. Love that.
Trevor,
comp.
thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate
it, guys.
it.
Anytime.